BunnyCast, episode number 1.
Warning! May contain nuts. Actually, does contain nuts. Not to be taken orally. Podcast may cause the following side effects: occasional bouts of laughter and other allergic reactions such as shortness of breath, splitting of sides, and facial swelling.
Sometimes the dreams come back and seem so real to me. The sky turns so cold and black, I'm scared of what.
Okay, welcome to the first BunnyCast ever. We have with us here the inimicable, the very British, the waiting for me to give him the introduction, the Honorable Right Reverend Lord Sir Killerfish of the Keenfans.
And to my immediate right, hang on a second, right there. Yeah, right, we have the indisputable, the indefeatable, the indefatigable Squato!
You didn't drag it on long enough.
Didn't I?
No. And above me doing the hammer dance is good old Helennet, or Homernet, or Bob, or something.
I am not Bob.
Not
You shall be
I'm
Bob. You shall be
Bob's my
Bob.
Guitar Hero's personality. Come on. Stand the ball here, Squato, come on.
No Guitar Hero. No Guitar Hero.
I think we should have to tie up him after we knock him out, but the hammer dance is just so funny to watch him doing.
Yes, anyways. Moving on. On to current events. Okay. Squato, what's been going on the forums?
Even though I'm not really on the forums, haven't been on the forums that much for reasons personal more than anything, there has come to my attention that there's been basically the fighting has gotten to the stage where Dan has just felt enough is enough. And that is the fighting, which is whenever someone has a thread or something along those lines that makes a comment which people take to as something very controversial or they're annoyed about, they make a comment back which basically leads to a fight taking place, which has led to a number of threads being locked. Seems to be a bigger problem on the main forums as opposed to the Mayhem.
Mayhem.
Yeah, it shows how long I've not been on there.
Mayhem.
Yeah, it seems to be more of a problem on the main forums than the Mayhem forums, but that doesn't say that it's not a problem there. It's may not be showing, but I reckon it's underlying. It's still there.
Well, you're dealing with you're dealing with a lot of the same personalities.
Yeah, it's more of a personality thing than anything. As people have pointed out, it's some points of it. It's a young thing, which is that some of the because there's more younger people on the forums than there used to be from before, and some of these people are just they're not used to actually getting into debates or talking with people. And there's also the international barrier where someone from, say, I don't know, Finland might be making a comment about, say, World War II, Goodwin's Law, which may be taken as offensive by someone else. Mm-hmm. Things like those.
Right.
Yeah, and then again, the other thing is you have the good old egos.
Yeah, well, speaking from the top 10% of the age groups in the bunnies, I am one of the older ones. I gotta say, it is...
What?
It's more amusing than anything else, talking on this side of 30, watching everybody else kind of bicker, but it does get really dumb sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Especially when you might have a debate, like someone may be saying something, and all of a sudden the reply is just, "You're offending whatever. Either you're offending me or you're breaking my emotional happiness," or something along those lines. It's
my sensibilities.
Yeah, something along those lines. And whatever chance there might have been of the debate having some type of legitimacy, even though it's an internet debate, which they don't really matter, it just really throws everything from what might have been going on to something else which it should never have been. Especially when other people just go into it and they start to side. Yeah.
Yeah, now, I should let the listeners know that although Killerfish is far too polite, Squato and I really have no compunctions about ripping you a new one if you're just plain stupid.
Yeah. I am too polite and modest and
I can have. I have politeness,
awesome.
but
Well, you're more the new polite, the kind of polite that is polite enough to tell you to.
You polite?
The new polite, yes, NEU.
I'm just trying to work out what's the new polite. It's like the new left wing or the new republicanism. Let's put in Kevin 07 in that.
Excuse me, I'm just going to get round with my homies and we'll come round and beat you in the kneecaps in a minute or two.
Perfect.
Oh, damn it! You just make oh Christ! What's the actor? Hugh Grant. Some comedy, some joke.
Don't you dare compare me to that hack. That hack.
No. There's this Australian. This Australian joke that was done on TV years ago where they had. Oh, what was it? If you've ever seen the film Chopper, this is a film that. This is more for Australians. It is a good movie. Hard one, but good one. Basically, it's gloritising the story of a hitman, and the guy's such a character. That's why they did it. And what they did is they had a rip-off was instead of having Eric Bana, who was actually a comedian in the first place. Something for those people that don't know. Instead of him playing the main role, it was Hugh Grant in there, and he comes up and goes, "Oh, Charlie-ho, sorry to be a problem, old chaps, but I'm just now going to have to kill you all." Pulls out a shotgun and kills 5 people. And he goes, "Oh, splat, I forgot to reload properly."
Well, of course, you've got to make certain to reload your shotgun after you've unloaded it into some perp.
Well, that you all make me think of Scrubs here in America. I don't know if it's gotten over to you guys, but
yeah, we've had it for a while. I've sort of felt it just jumped the shark.
Well, yeah, of course, it jumped the shark at the end of the first season, but during the first season there was that one episode where there was that doctor who was so helpful he'd help you kill him. Just a little higher, come on, you gotta get the pressure. Perfect.
Wasn't that Dick Van Dyke?
No, that wasn't Dick Van Dyke.
Wasn't that Diagnosis Murder?
Oh, no. Now I remember what I'm thinking of with Dick Van Dyke with this joke is when he was so nice that he goes, if you're going to... I don't think it was him, but I think it was someone else where the guy just sort of turns around and goes, "Oh, could you just go a little bit higher when you stab me in the back?"
Little to the left. That's good.
Okay, moving on to comic news. Well, anybody who's reading the comic will know that it is back on a temporary hiatus while Dan, what was it, cleans up his artwork style?
Yeah, that old issue.
Yeah. And
from what we all understand it, this is what the fans and all that understand it. Dan, because he's in his new art classes and he's been drawing the different styles, which is a good thing for him because he's experimenting, he's learning new stuff, but then when he's come back to his old art, it's just sort of looks wrong to him, and it appears he's actually worked out his problems, but he's now at the stage of trying, or he might have. We all know how when he says, "I've worked it out," we know that just means until the next time.
indeed.
Well, speaking as a webcomic artist, of course, I've noticed there's a tendency among authors to be mega super hypercritical about any and all artwork they do. So
the praise.
No, I'm being praised by somebody. Stop praising me! It's my kryptonite. So
actually, you're true when you say that it can be a kryptonite for actually both authors and the artists, but for the things, because some people they just don't want to hear it. Some people could actually become an ego stroking. That is, if someone just says, "Oh, we like this," that they ignore every other fault because someone said it was a good thing for this point.
Yeah. And then they start. Then they turn into stalkers. Get away from me!
Well, I know there's at least one bunny who I really want to start making a webcomic, but he just won't listen at all because he's really not all that confident about his artwork. And he does great work, and I think most of us know who I'm talking about.
Well,
Moominebe. Moominebe.
I wasn't going to say anything, but, Anyway,
actually, there's a few people you could class in for that, but they all have their excuses. But he's the one that procrastinates the most, so we'll check out Hands
You
King.
procrastinator! I condemn thee to spend your entire life on DeviantArt!
who are we talking about? I don't know, because all I heard was Killerfish coughing. Moving on to other news. This I've mentioned a few times, but I want to make it big and clear and bold right now. Anybody who may not know, I am on the committee for Comic-Con, as in Comic-Con International, held in San Diego every year, biggest comics book convention, period. Basically, last year, for those of you who did attend, you'll know that getting a ticket to get in the door was a little difficult because a couple days had been capped off even before the doors had been opened. Well, this year...
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
I'm sorry, what?
That was a nightmare.
Yeah. This year, they're taking all ticket sales online. All volunteering is going online as well. And they are probably not even going to be setting up registers to sell tickets at the door at all. And
So basically...
Go ahead.
Well, sorry. Basically, you've got to get in quick.
Yes.
If you want to go to Comic-Con, get in quick now.
Yes.
Which, Homer, you've got my info, haven't you, right? To put on.
I've got enough that I can put you on the list, yes.
Yeah.
So, which, of course, brings me to the next subject.
That's if it's still a question. If I go,
Right.
I'll just put a related note in because of the fact you talked about the Comic Con. For those people that are not aware, at this year, the Watch forums are actually going to be holding their convention. Quotation
I see what
marks.
you did there.
Yeah. Their convention, which they name themselves, will be held at San Diego about a few days to a week or so before the actual event.
I think in talking with Robin, it was going to be the Monday and Tuesday beforehand, and then Wednesday was going to be a prep day for the con itself.
Yeah, well, they normally how they do it is, they sort of have, they've done it in the past, it's normally been on a weekend, how they've had, the people will come on a Thursday or so, they'll do something for a Friday, people will come there, then they all meet on the Saturday,
Well,
they sort of just fart us around there, and then they wake up for the Sunday, then they leave in the afternoon. That's normally how it's been done in the Washington and Milwaukee cons, and I know people that in the area are going to hate me because I mispronounced Milwaukee.
Milwaukee!
That's okay. Nobody can pronounce Milwaukee.
Yeah, but nobody can pronounce Moominebe either, but...
Milwaukee.
He sounds like he's out of the Lion King a little bit.
Moominebe, you must avenge me.
They
take
never
over the
say
pie.
that.
Oh yeah, that's not emphasising the rip-offs of Hamlet in the film in the Lion King.
What? The
Sorry,
Lion
it's not a
King
rip-off. It's more of
Hamlet?
a. No, it's not a rip-off. It was more of a. I'm going to put it.
Homage?
Thank you.
That's the safe way of putting it so we don't get sued.
Well, I do know that Robin is planning on taking whoever can pay for it to one of the nearby family fun centers for some go-karting and laser tag and mini golf and whatever.
And the day beforehand, which that was apparently for the Tuesday. The Tuesday plans.
Yeah.
Apparently for the Monday, is possibly going to be things like paintballing and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yes, for everyone that wants to know how mature and safe and sane the watches are, try to think of that when they're shooting each other with small pellets of paint, which travel at a very high speed and can cause very big bruises.
Well, I've heard from Robin myself, and apparently there's the family centre they're going to is going to be a lot more cost effective than doing two events. So I think it's a lot of it's up in the air.
It's up in the air, yeah.
Okay.
And for anybody listening, I myself plan to attend this, so if you want to shoot me, and let's face it, who doesn't, please feel free to attend and make it a good and best convention that we've ever had. Not that I've ever been to one before, but hey.
The only problem.
I would like to actually. Yeah. Oh, go. Have a go.
The only problem is the local paintball places don't let you sneak in paint grenades.
Can you do a sluggy freelance thing and tie a paintbrush to it like a bayonet?
I forgot about that. That's awesome.
Torg rules. Here's my role model.
That just went right over my head because I don't read Sluggy Freelance. Yes,
Read Sluggy Freelance, unbeliever.
That's okay.
I'll read it one of these days. I've got about 60 odd comics that I've got to read yet, and I've got about which I read on top of the 100 or so that I already read.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
take that list of 60, put Sluggy Freelance right at the top.
It actually is.
Then why haven't you read it yet?
Reasons.
Anyway,
moving on. One more news.
Actually,
item.
I was just going to make an attachment thing on that because you mentioned the problems of going there. This is also something for people that are coming from Australia. If you're going to be going, especially this is for something for people that need to travel out of Sydney, be very prepared for slow delay around the time of Comic-Con. The reason for this is in case you don't know, the Pope's visit is going to be coinciding around Comic-Con. In fact, the Pope will be visiting Sydney at least a week or so beforehand, as well as
the Pope is actually going to Comic-Con this year.
No, he's going to Sydney.
No, that's the Chaos Pope.
Oh, right.
Well, there's no. Actually, there's an American anti-Pope.
Yeah,
there is an actual American anti-Pope.
Yeah, and there was also an Emperor Norton. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Well, you live close to where he.
Moving on.
Yeah, so that's my little warning for those people who need to travel.
Back to the Comic-Con thing. Those who do want to get in and all your money is going to be sucked up on the travel time, you can get in doing volunteer work. And again, you're going to have to let us know ahead of time that you want to do the volunteer work, but just give me your name and some contact info, and it's going to have to be your real name, not your forum name. But go ahead and send it to me at helennet@mac.com, and I will gladly forward your information onto the volunteer department, unless you have a specific department you want to work for, and I'll just forward your information onto the appropriate department head.
As a note for anyone listening to that, please don't send his information to Nigerian scammers. It may be funny, but not for him.
Right.
Moving on.
Okay. Any news from other comics? I know there was something about the Watch, besides the convention.
Oh, yes. The review board thing you were talking about.
Oh, yes. This is another thing for those people that aren't aware. There's been some talk about about how they have the rating system for webcomics in general. I'm trying to think. I think it was on the 910 CMX forums, which is quite an interesting little side story as to how that name was done.
Real quick, Squato, explain the rating system to those who are merely casual readers of the Watch.
It's more on the forum type thing. Basically, it's the forum they talked about it, and they've decided that there should be some type of authority judging, coming up with the ratings for comics, as opposed to just the system which is in place now, which is somebody can say, "Oh, I think my comic should be M rated or PG rated," and you have no idea what's really going on, and because there's no clear definition of what really should be the rate, or that type of rating or not, and even then, a lot of the comics seem to break it at some point, or in some way. So what they want to do is they want to have something similar to a normal board, which is a group of people who may or may not have been semi-trained in doing it properly will go to a comic. They will actually go to them, unless the person goes to them. They will take a look at the comic, read it all, get any information they require, and then basically we'll make a judgment about what type of rating it should be. I don't know if some people are going to see this as a good thing, because as opposed to just having the hickory-pickory system you have now, it's actually some type of authority, which is more in line with, say, what Australia has or the American ratings board system is, which I've got the name.
Motion Picture Association of America.
Yeah, things like that. But then again, it could be bad. Then again, it could be a bad thing because, yeah. I know. I just don't want to cover all the problems with censorship. Like people will be classifying for censorship. It's if you read any, like you should have heard at least some point with some concerns about these type of boards. So just go and check that on Wikipedia if you want. You'll get more information there. But yeah, so that's the basic idea. The other thing I was going to say is the problem for it is legitimacy, because the only way that this type of thing should work is if people actually view it as a legitimate type of part of the webcomic community. And if that happens, then what it talks about and what they do and all that is really going to be something that's going to hold an impact, as opposed to just we rate comics, no one cares. Yeah. It's when they put rating for a comic, it actually means something.
It has to have the support of the general public to have any authority behind it at all. So we're basically encouraging people to get behind this initiative.
It depends. If you want people who want to get behind it, they can. Otherwise, if you have concerns, I direct you to the Watch forums so you can talk about it there. Or if you just want to think it's going to fail because no one's particularly going to worry about it too much, go there or do whatever. But actually, I don't feel it's a bad thing if it actually gets off the ground.
Yeah, well, I have to see. I'm kind of leery of that because of all the bull crap that Raya and MPAA is pulling in here in America. Yeah,
I know, but I'm just saying it's some type of thing which is opposed to someone just coming up and saying, "Oh, I want my comic. Oh, it's a comic. I'll just say it's an M rating." And oh, look, this person just got raped by an octopus, and then had their head decapitated, and someone running around with the head on a stick. Oh yes. I'm still an M-rated comic, don't you know?
Yes, but is the head still talking?
Yeah.
Maybe in a Sin City type of way.
All right, let's move on.
Moving on to the next part of the show.
No. Stop it. No singing.
No.
Mamma mia. Sorry.
No singing. Stop the singing.
We have the singing Nazi here.
Okay.
Yes.
Springtime for Homer.
In Germany. Stop doing it, Squato. You know I've got that. You know that what happens if you start singing songs in front of me. I will join in. And I will take over. And that's why I've been trying to keep silent for so long as I have. But you know what will happen if I start singing. We'll end up with a modern version of Greensleeves again, and we just know how horrible that went, so...
Oh, well, we know what to do. If there's ever a karaoke type event, you know who has to be taken.
Yes, well,
You know who has to be gagged and tied and locked up in a room in a dark corner.
The director of the director of the choir.
Well, if you do that, we'll make sure we have a Kim for you. So.
Arr. The director of the choir I'm in wants to actually cast me as Rasputin in the upcoming musical performance.
Of what is Anastasia?
If I remember,
Anastasia.
If I remember correctly, you were Zazu and Scar in The Lion King, which you recently did.
That Scar was actually quite a bit of fun, and
it's always fun to play the villain. Not that I know.
Yeah.
You can't beat Jeremy Irons at that voice, though.
You'd have to hear it. It actually sounds pretty good, in my humble opinion. Anyways,
my view is Jeremy Irons nailed the character. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, that's very true. Very true. Jeremy Irons is who I patterned my performance off of.
So, the professional there.
He is. So, let's talk a little bit about what we want to do with the comic. Podcast. I didn't get much sleep last night.
Join the club.
Yes.
Join the club.
Yeah, well, you had to get up early. I had to get up because my wife needed dropping off, and I chose to stay awake at that point. I'm very tired. In any case. Anywho.
Anywho.
Alright, Killerfish, since the podcast was your idea to start with, let's hear what you have to say about it. What did you have planned?
Basically, what I had planned was generally just this, a way to open up the community of the forums a bit more, as I've been trying to do with Keenfans, which really I should be getting back onto.
Oh wait, that's your comic? I forgot.
Well, yeah.
For anyone that wants to, you can have hit Killerfish type things coming up soon. In fact, hey, that might actually work as a filler. We could have a little thing where people can actually place their name on the comic, so that if those that want to make sure they hit him.
Okay.
Or slap him, whatever.
So go on, Killerfish, what you were saying?
Well, basically, the whole purpose of my projects on the forums is to try and bring a sense of community to the forums, to really gel the fandom together.
So they're not tearing each other every few days.
Yeah,
it's been the case.
Which has been the case recently, and I blame myself for being offline for so long. But what I really, really want to do is to build that sense of community. That's basically the whole reason behind the Order of the Bunny as well, to get people making friends with each other, even internationally, like we've done. Australia, England, and America all together, making a podcast. It's the ultimate symbol of unity and friendship and truth, justice.
It's
the American way. No.
You do that, it almost sounds like one of those really, really bad moments in some of those films, like, say, Independence Day or things like that, where everyone just sort of holds hands. See, we're friends!
We're friends. Power of friendship.
See what the destruction of the world can do for you? Anyways.
Yes, but if Independence Day taught me anything, it's that the world can be saved from alien invasion by a 3.5-inch floppy.
And it shows the evilness of Mac.
Oh yes, absolutely. Macintosh has saved the world all the time. You just don't know it because we do it so well.
Actually, it also showed that it was only because we stole it from the aliens that we used it. So the code there is evil.
Yeah, well, evil, good. One side's as good as the other.
Speaking of international listeners and friendship and camaraderie and all that, I want to know who the EGS reader is in the Middle East. We've got if you look at
yeah, I've heard a little bit about that. Yeah.
Somebody put up one of those what's it called?
I've got the site. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a map of basically the readership, and it's condensed in, of course, as you'd expect, Australia, the United States, United Kingdom,
Europe,
a little bit in Europe there, and then there's that one little lonely post in the Middle East. I gotta find out who that is. That is just so cool.
I also
Your
heard
mission,
there's...
should you choose to accept it, is to find out who the bunny is in the Middle East. This message will self-destruct after 5 seconds of annoying beeping noises. Beep 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 beep.
Okay, but it was just with the Middle East that we should also find out the point that might be there is if it's a long-term person, meaning someone actually lives in the Middle East, or if it's just say someone with the U.S. Army that's in Iraq or something like that. And no, we will not go into Iraq. So for the love of God, don't talk about it in the threads.
Yeah, because I'll school your ass. Anyway,
mainly because we're afraid of dying.
But the other thing is, I do know that, well, this is what I heard at least, is apparently that there's someone, or maybe a few people in India that apparently have followed the comic, and other parts of Asia.
Well, that's cool.
Nice. Since we're talking about what our views of what this podcast is going to be about, Squato, what did you think this podcast was going to be about when I asked you to join in and participate?
Girls.
You
of course.
poor deluded man. The only girls here are the ones that are transformed guys.
We're
Well, ones are using
talking
Twitch
about
media,
things
but-
on the internet. Don't you know there is no such thing as girls on the net? Or what the acronym of girls stands for? Guys in real life.
I hadn't heard that one. That's good. So seriously, what were you hoping for?
I don't know. It was a bit of fun, something different.
It was a Killerfish project. That immediately drew you to it.
I blame you for making me think of getting the theme for the 20th Century Fox in my head running just when you did the Killerfish production. And wait 30 seconds for the doors of our home doors to get smashed in by lawyers from from Fox Corporation.
That's why I've put not affiliated with Fox on my Google Mail account.
Oh, and I bet
I've already anticipated it. I'm not affiliated with Fox. We're merely saying how good we think Fox is. Yes, good.
I've watched.
They can't sue us if we say good things about them.
I've watched too much
Also,
Star Wars. I've got the Star Wars theme going in my head as a follow-up to the intro music.
I may have had something to do with that, and we're not going to go into it because, well, he can, but
what?
Yeah, it's too long a ramble, but it's also a story which might not be so interesting. Plus, it might be funny to find out in time. But the one I want to comment is when we were talking about Fox, and I just sort of was thinking, I'm wondering how many people are going to be thinking something along me because of the fact that there was Fox and me were brought in at the time.
No idea.
I'm
I'm just wondering. Some people may have an idea.
Or should we move on to the listeners' questions?
Well,
Because they did spend an awful long time writing questions for us to
oh yes,
answer.
the voluminous
Oh,
question.
5 seconds. Oh, 5 seconds.
Well, let's hit this off with.
I'm on the internet. Yay!
Hey, now, no insulting our listenership too much, especially when they actually try to help.
Well, of course, I could be argued for being making fun of myself then, as opposed to just any particular person.
True. Let's hit things off. Go with. I'll read the first question that was posted on the Mayhem forums on the question thread from I believe it's pronounced Bainhart to Squato. Are you British?
Tally ho, old chap! Off to fight
No.
Jerry Adams. Yes. Yes.
It's tally-ho, not tally-ho. It's pronounced ah.
Actually, it's pronounced tally-ho in Australia for various reasons. In particular, because of the comedy routine known as Australiana. Point if you know it.
No.
Okay.
It passes a tally Hobart.
Right, should I do a question?
Go for it.
I suggest people go and look on YouTube for that. It's such a hilarious thing. But the guy by the name of Ostentatious.
You know, as much as
I'm not going to.
As much as people kind of rip on me for being so pro-America, Squato is just as much pro-Australia.
And I take fun of the English every chance I get.
And
I'm the only
French,
one of us who's not
and
hating
and the
I
Spanish.
make fun of everyone.
And the
because I can.
Russian.
Okay, Killerfish, question.
Question. Well, I guess we've sort of answered the one Free Radical posted up. So we'll go on to You Will Never Know. And he's asked, he, she, it. Looks like a Cthulhu monster. Well, that's what the avatar looks like. Anyway, basically...
I meant to have done a whole version of his avatar once. Damn it.
never mind. Right, we'll ask a question.
I'll poke you without doing it.
Right, I'm going to go with how much of your online persona is real? I take it he means his our Keenfans / forums / personas, and not the personas we're currently using.
And hey, now I'm all into the Yuri, not the slash. But well, that's actually a really good question. I'll go ahead and go last on this one.
Okay.
You two want to flip for it, or?
Squato, you go first. Because I say so.
Yay. I couldn't think of a good comeback to that. Forgiveness, please! And commit sucker pull because of that. And yes, before anyone jumps in, I don't care if I pronounce that wrong. I'll really say it's up to people. And there's some parts of the parent online persona which I definitely can say are wrong, and that's in particular would be even my real one, like the one on the forums, instead of just say Keenfans. But other parts, yeah, it's so true enough. I should also point out that for those that are not aware, there is technically there's third persona. There's the Squato character, there's the Squato character, and there's also the Vixer character. I'll condense what happened there is the randomness all of the forums created those personas for the comics and the forums, so when it was coming about, in my mind, I was thinking it all, I decided, well, I may as well make them sort of examples of parts of my persona. So you have, if you want to go for the generally discredited view type thinking, there is the id, there is the ego, and all that type of stuff. Anyone wants to define which is which, go for it.
But you really do
but
like stabbing people then?
Not too much. But in general, yeah, it's sort of along those lines. But more of it is that Squato is one side of the persona, Vixer is one side of the persona, and Squato is the one in the center. The fun part is working out why both extremes of the persona are female, and why actually one has a tail amongst and fur and other things. So
Good question. Good answer.
I'll leave a lot of that to people to work out for themselves.
Yeah.
If you want to actually say it, go for it. I'm quite interested in hearing why people want to feel that might be the case.
I suppose it's time for me to answer a few questions then about how much of my online persona is real. For sake of simplicity, because I have so many online personalities, I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. How many online personalities do I have now? Something like 10?
I think you have about.
I lost count.
I think you've created 2 just for this chat.
Yes. For the sake of argument, let's go with Dark, mainly because he's the one I use most regularly on the forums.
Yeah.
The thing is about Dark is he wasn't actually meant to be all that evil. I know. It sort of got away from me there. But
Simply because they don't know all this detail.
yes. Laugh off. Anyway, I have gradually began mutating into Dark, which is scary in and of itself. I mean, today
So much that we should all call him Darth nowadays. Instead of Delphi, it's Darth.
Starfid. Pronounce my name correctly, damn you, or I'll force choke you. No, wait, I can't actually do that.
Dun, 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 dun.
I need more food now. Anyway, yes, I have gradually been mutating.
Is this random enough for you yet, people?
Yeah, I have been mutating into Dark. I mean, today at work, we have a whiteboard which we draw stuff on, just as sort of like competitions, like draw a silly animal. So we draw rabbits with wheels, or race hounds with springs attached to them, or
this sounds
pigs.
like that joke on irregular comic, webcomic.
Yeah. Well, one of my ones was I drew a pig strapped to an ICBM. It gets worse. The next one was draw a really
In space.
draw another one, and I drew a carrot bat, which is a mix between a carrot and a bat, oddly enough,
Figured.
and a salmon bear.
That's just wrong.
A salmon bear, yes.
We're talking about
but-
people from EGS forums. If there is any line that is considered wrong, we long since passed it, and actually came back just to give it something to eat because we missed it.
I just don't want to see Rule
Yes.
34 of that one. Just don't show it to me. Period.
Oh, actually,
Anyway,
one minor
how
point
I-
on that. It's just not sorry to interrupt, but for one minor point, if I know that there's people that it was a bit of controversy is when people found out the Rule 34 stuff for EGS. For the love of God, don't go there and don't look at it. Even though most of it is just playing off or redoing what they did for the comic, but
I think you
don't
guys
go-
need to explain what Rule 34 is to those of us who don't know what Rule 34 is.
There
Those
is
ignorant
porn
people.
of
don't.
it. Period.
Oh, right.
My actual comment was, if you don't know what Rule 34 is, then you must still be living in some remote section of Siberia and still think that the Tsar is in power still. So
No, I'm
Alexander
just
II
innocently
is in power.
naive. But anyway, what I was talking about today, what I drew up was this machine, which had the Death Ray and a teleport booth. And after I did that, I just started sketching something, and I came up with this really weird thing. And I actually really wanted to figure out how to make it because I had this feeling that if I could do that, I could solve world power problems. And I was getting so into this, and I just realised gradually that I was turning into a mad scientist. So yes, I am becoming like Dark, which begs the question: will I start sprouting archangel wings and have a blue shimmering outline? I don't know.
Laughing because I know why that's the case.
If you do that, you are required to come here and first and TF me, and then you can go and TF Squato. But there's going to be provisos on that.
I'm wondering if
Dark
how many
doesn't
people on
have
the
TF
forums-
powers.
He's got that gauntlet thing.
He doesn't. He doesn't. Well, yeah, but he has to take that off in order to use his archangel powers.
Right.
And we also know that's not really a good thing because of because it works more on a quantum level. And yes, we know what happened to that kitty.
Yes, quantum observation for those of you who are into your.
You just got to
quantum
collapse
mechanics.
the waveform in a way that's most favorable to you. It's easy.
Yeah,
Okay,
but anyway,
going back to Killerfish, go ahead.
what I have noticed is most of my online personas seem to have a sort of invincibility about them.
Sorta?
Yeah, you may have noticed that.
See, none of them can be killed.
My power level is 9,000!
God, I hate that.
Hey, Vegeta! Hey, Vegeta! It's the God motor.
I try making up for them for giving them terribly flawed personalities. But anyway, that's what I'm going to say about my online persona characters.
Alright.
Homer, on to you.
Well, mine, all two of them, are somewhat interesting. I actually came in.
Only two?
Yeah, I've
Only two?
Weirdo.
I've
You
only
absolute
What?
two ever. Period.
How? He is the freak.
I actually came into the EGS forums significantly burned from other forums and online areas where just a good example is Furrymuck. FURRYMUCK for those who are interested in. It's a nice place.
And please, no tacking of whatever that is because, yes, he went there. Just live with it.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say.
You would think that a place that is open and accepting of furries would be open and accepting of just about anything, but the level of hostility for, frankly, transgenders is just ridiculous. And of course, that being transgendered myself, it was fun to play around in for a little while, but it just got very uncomfortable, and I kept finding that everywhere on the net. So when I landed in EGS, it was me, Chris, trying to be me, Chris, but when I got into Mayhem, Mayhem being Mayhem, it started to create interesting effects. Not the least of which was very, very shortly after I got into Mayhem, I wound up creating this Homer versus Helen, and the amusing part is, even though I kind of had this idea that the female persona was going to be named Helen, I never actually said it until somebody else labeled Helen as Helen, which I thought was kind of cool, because, you know...
I can't remember who said that in the first place. I do remember when you first came, there was a bit of controversy over whether you were someone else, because they were using very similar avatar, posted around the same time and things like that. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I can't remember who was... at one point, I got...
I have a rough idea who it was, so just, yeah.
Yeah, I know at one point I got them to participate.
Mad Bob, that's it.
Mad Bob, yes, thank you. I got
Mad
Mad Bob
Bob
to participate by... whenever I wanted to change the avatar, he would change his, and then whenever he changed his, I would change mine. It was fun for a little bit.
But then he disappeared, and it's sort of fallen by the wayside.
It was fun, though. It was fun, but somebody actually started calling the female aspect of myself Helen, which, of course, again, perfectly suited me. And the more...
This is all before the tangos.
Before the tangos. Yeah.
Oh no, do not introduce the tango incident. Please, do not introduce the tango incident.
Well, yeah, we'll touch on it briefly. So as I was, fleshing out both the male aspect and the female aspect,
Yin yang.
yeah, the female aspect just kept progressively getting more and more powerful, which kind of came back to a very long-standing conflict I'd had, which any transgender listening will understand, of exactly who am I? What am I? What's this person that is inhabiting this body that just doesn't seem to fit right? And the Helen persona just started becoming more and more expressive as part of who I really was, until it got to the point where that became the dominant persona that I used. Instead of being Homernet, it was Helennet, who's talking through the Homernet account online. And of course, there was the Tango incident, which created the interesting little quirk of a pregnant online character. My conservative leaning.
Yeah, and I would never know anything about that.
Yes.
Don't bring it up if you know.
Yes. My conservative leanings kind of balked at the idea of any sort of cancellation of the pregnancy of any sort. So I decided, okay, well, let's hang on to it. Let's keep it. Let's have some fun with this, which resulted in 9 months later, Xena. Which we've kind of let Xena be kind of dormant in the background, but it was fun having.
It's still around as far as I'm aware on the forums.
Yes.
Like some of the old timers play around, but yeah, if it comes back one of these days,
Yeah, well,
we'll probably.
Xena will.
Let's hope if it does come back, it's not in a number 8 type way. Oh, sorry, no, number 3. That's it. Yes,
Number 3.
that's who Lucy Lawless plays in Battlestar Galactica.
Aha.
Number 3.
I have not seen Battlestar Galactica, so that went right over my head. So, anyways,
I'm going to hit you for that until you watch.
The internet hates you.
yeah, I actually was planning on starting that up, but anyways, getting back on topic. With this virtual pregnancy and Helen becoming more and more dominant, and then John Og having fun with the TF guns and the magic and the goofiness, and all of a sudden,
That's someone I haven't seen for such a long time.
yeah, it's been a while. But with all
old timers reminiscing.
with all the stuff that occurred to bring Ranma-chan Homernet and Helennet as fully realized personas, both female. At that point, it was like, any sort of masculinity I was hoping to preserve. Yeah, you might as well just forget it. And
Actually, I feel you have preserved the level of masculinity, if you ask me.
Masculinity?
Yes. Go with that. That's now the new term that everyone must now use at some point in their daily lives.
Masculinity.
Masculinity.
So the nail in the coffin was really when the Order of the Bunny was formed, and I kind of jokingly said, I have a feeling you guys are going to give me something like Dame Helennet the Leatherclad, and of course that's what they gave me, and it stuck. And at that point,
I think that was only because I pointed out that the female equivalent of a sir is a dame.
Well, everybody liked it, and that's kind of what stuck. And I like it myself. So all of this has kind of been a roundabout way of saying who I represent on the forums. That's really who I am. There's no dissembling. The only difference being, of course, the voice in your head when you read my posts online.
Which just broke the mystique.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I spent so much time trying to get a decent voice changing software, but never could find one that would really work. I'm going to have to break that out just so everybody can hear how bad that sounded.
Yeah, go for it.
Homer, breaking your dream since 1970, whatever.
1976.
Note that when you want to apply for anything using his information, people.
Hey, I've had my identity stolen like 3 times. It's not going to be anything new.
Nobody wants to steal my identity. Something must be wrong with me. I mean, I've got good credit ratings and everything.
You just made me remember, I got this stupid email from some scammer once, and they said, hi, I'm with such and such corporation. Could you please send us your information so that we could use it to create our own database entry for your information and use it for our own purposes? I'm like, yeah, that sounds friendly enough that I'm going to be dumb enough to give you my information so you can do whatever you want.
That was so freaking transparent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're not lying.
Well, that's true. That's very true. They're not lying. They're not committing any sort of fraud, per se.
Yeah, it's just that they use your information without your or whatever you give them for their own purposes, and you foot the bill for it.
Yes.
But they said they were going to do that.
Okay, so getting back to the questions from the Mayhem forums, You Will Never Know has actually posted in both, and it appears to be different questions in both. First off of his questions is EGS your primary comic? And that was a little vaguely worded, but I'm going to take that to mean the primary reason going online and reading comics.
Or could have been to also mean the main comic that you follow.
That's
I think,
what I
I
meant,
think,
really.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to honestly say no.
I would define what you say there. Could mean a few things like the main reason for going to the forums or the forums or online or things like those.
Well, the forums are definitely one of the primary reasons I used to go online. Not so much anymore, but I'm trying to push things back that way. But the EGS comic itself is just one of the ones that I check. Now, in terms of one of the ones that I'm most passionate about, I'd have to say yes, but then again, I'm also extremely passionate about catching up on The Watch and SVGY and let's see what else. Misfile.
Stuff.
Yeah, there's a bunch of comics that when I see that they're updated, I'm all score! How about you, Squato?
And he doesn't follow American football there, do you? That's so foul, that joke. Please forget it.
I'm not even going to pretend. How about you, Squato?
It's like with the American... You see on these films, like the American footballers, like the guys just go...
You're avoiding the question. Answer it.
No, I'm not avoiding anything.
Yes, you are.
I'll say for getting or for how we've broken up. Main thing for going online. No, it was not really the main thing. I was really going. Most when I went online, really around 2005, was when I really went back online because I'd sort of been on there on dial-up. But that was when I had broadband for the first time. Around then, that's when I really went online in a very active sense. But it was mostly to another forum that I used to be on and have since returned. But then I started to play around and I found the comic. That led me to stay. Was one of the things which made me stay online was with the EGS forums, as well as other places. So staying online, yeah, you can argue that was the case. In terms of how much I follow the comic, yeah, I still follow the comic. I still feel it's a big thing. I still really I find it interesting enough that it actually has had a sense of some impacts on what I've done. In particular, for those that have seen my music videos, you should have, and that's not a cross promotion or anything like that. I'm just pointing the fact out. If you've ever seen the music videos I've made, you should be able to understand how much it's some of the things it's done, like how I've been able to, I hope, retell or at the very least emphasise or maybe make a homage to something in the comic.
Yeah, and I must say you do a remarkable job given the horribly primitive and insufficient tools.
Yes, Windows Media Player or Movie Maker.
Sunlight,
cheap.
Media Player.
I will say this. I will say this for those that are interested in my movies that I've made. The next one shall be interesting.
That gives us something to hope for.
Yes, that I actually am making another one, and I've actually been making it for a while.
Okay, we'll plug projects later on. Killerfish, how about you?
Well, that's the only comment you're going to hear about that project because I'm not going to make any other comment. In fact, all other comments are actually have been classified, so that's all you will know.
Okay, Killerfish, how about yourself?
Well, this is actually going to surprise a few people, but I'm not actually all that into TG.
What?
It's not one of my things. I'm more into the TF aspect of Elgin Shive.
Not to interrupt, but you just made me wonder. I'm wondering how big a thing is it with TF on the forums, really? Because the old days, it really was a big thing. Everyone was practically doing it every day, or almost every thread. But I don't know. I think it's almost sort of fallen to the wayside. I'm just sort of wondering how many people out there actually do it as much. So, if you want to make a comment for any of the listeners, go for it.
Yeah. Just
Have you noticed Squato also always interrupts me whilst I'm in the middle of a conversation? Or
sorry, it's just that. Sorry, it's just
you interrupted me again.
Well, it's just
Like
you're
so piranhas.
You're so egregious. Anyways.
Well, and we know he gets himself back with he's doing that.
Just to throw in a little comment about the tendency of TFs and TGs and all that. I don't think there's. One of the beautiful things I think about the forums is that there's really no one classification. There's the furries, and there's the TGs, and there's the people that are there for the TFs, and there's the people there that you like it just because it's a relationship comic, and then there's the people that like it because there's a lesbian couple, and then there's people that like it because there's a gay
the minority because there apparently was someone that wanted actually there was someone that really, this is not a joke, they actually did want Dan to turn the EGS into just a comic about following Nanasse and Ellen as they went on their lesbian adventures around the world shooting people and things like that.
Oh my heavens! I'm just envisioning this in that chibi style Dan has with the flowers and they're romping.
That would be so sexy.
No. They're wearing leather costumes, riding around on motorcycle bikes. If I can remember what this person said correctly, amongst other things.
That sounds like something I was supposed to come up with.
It was,
We need to take it
some
to
people laughed at,
get done.
if I can recall correctly, I think some people laughed at it, thinking the idea was just so stupid that it could never work. Well, for EGS at least. And other ones were so offended by it that the person has never shown their face on the forums ever again.
Oh, no. But anyway, should we get back to... I was,
Okay, so
Well, I was
away
on
from
to-
the militant
You were talking?
lesbianism.
yes, I was.
Yes, your crowd, you miss out.
Yeah, I'm as I said, I'm not really all that into TG. I'm just one of the other things that draws me to Shive. Sorry, Dan, I've pronounced your name incorrectly.
Again.
You can beat me over the head next time you see me at Comic Con. One of the main things that draws me to it is the art style. Oddly enough, I actually came to webcomics late, so I just bopped around looking for comic styles which I liked and artists who could tell stories well, and that's what primarily draws me to Elgunish Shive. Not any of the weird turning into half animals. Well, maybe a bit of that, but you know.
It's your guilty pleasure. We understand.
Yes. Yes. Only because I wish I could do that and like beat up the people who used to take the mick out of me when I was younger. I've got a
Yes,
whole
Doc.
childhood of repressed childhood trauma.
Yes, staff.
Okay. What's the next question you got from the main?
Actually, I'll just
Oh,
make a small follow-up because of what Darth said then. With the TF and things like that, for myself, I might have had more of an interest in it before, like doing some of the things more for playful things and like that on the forums. And also when it was said with creating the characters, because it actually, in a sense, actually did help me define myself a lot better when I did work out the importance of those characters. But nowadays, no, not so much. It's not really an important thing for me. I do it for storytelling reasons or things like that, but it's not something that's drawing big attention for me. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Should we get on with the next question then?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it's just that you just triggered something in my mind when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was the small thermonuclear device I planted there last week.
Amateur.
So that explains. Well, that explains why the microwaves actually work so much better now when I'm around it.
Damn. Damn side benefit. Okay. Well, since we've done lots of ones by You Will Never Know, let's get on to the other questions, which are...
I love how, going on here, I love how he says ho instead of how much do you on like Persona Real.
Yes, I wasn't going to mention that.
I just noticed it.
Okay. Since we've run out of questions which are actually serious,
Well, okay.
let's get to one of the...
Yes.
Let's get to one of the fun questions.
On a
One of the fun questions.
on a scale of 1 to 10, would you call Craggy a sexy beast?
All I know of Craggy is that is the symbol that I draw him as. So
Yes, the one where you draw 63, I think it is, in the center. When
yeah,
it's actually a stylized GZ.
yes,
I know because I made that.
Did you?
Yes.
Well, you should have told me it was a stylized GZ, and then I would have done it properly then.
Well, I first noticed that back before you and I really started getting to know each other, and by the time we had actually started communicating enough for me to be able to say something like that, it was so established that that was just a 6'3" in the symbol. Leave it.
That happens so often. I mean, anyway, so sexy man beast of Craggy. I'm going to have to go with a 3.
On a scale
3 for the sexy. Yeah.
of
Because you know, I only know him as a symbol, and the symbol is it's a fairly sexy looking symbol. So you know.
Okay, so let's see. I have seen pictures of Craggy, and he's a skinny little guy, but he's got a fro, and he managed to get a bunch of girls hanging off him wearing a woman's swimsuit. So I have got to say that just sheerly on evidence alone, that would qualify him as a sexy beast. So I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 on that.
Okay. Squato, your opinion?
No comment.
Squato? No comment. Wuss.
Coward.
If you don't feel confident about talking about another man as a sexy man beast, then it's your loss.
No, it's not that. I've got my reasons for not wanting to make a comment here.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Oh, here's a good one.
Go ahead.
What would you do if a leather-clad Roosevelt descended from the sky riding a nuke?
Well, the Leatherclad is always a good thing for me, but then we're talking about Roosevelt, a man who was not exactly somebody you'd want to see in leather.
Don't you know that's what he was really doing underneath when the blanket was over the wheelchair? That's what he was on, like, underneath.
Wait, which Roosevelt are we talking about?
World War II one.
Ah, World War II. Because I was thinking Teddy Roosevelt, the Battle of Bull Run and all that. This changes things.
Battle of Bull Run? He was not in the
doesn't
US
actually
Civil
say
War.
which Roosevelt it was, so...
Okay, first Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt.
There's a few Roosevelts. They were the Kennedys of their day.
Yes.
Or Bushes of their day. They're all Dennis.
I would have to hesitate about Teddy Roosevelt, but I'd have to give him props for just being daring enough to do that. Although, of course, right in the nuke down, that would mean it'd be a very limited career of doing that. So I don't know. But the other Roosevelt, no. Keep him in the wheelchair. I don't want to see that at all.
Actually, he probably would have a nuclear-powered wheelchair if he didn't die.
With spider legs. Dun, dun, and have that music from a Pirates of the Caribbean for the Kraken.
That would have just made World War II so much more interesting then.
Mecha and spider legs and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, the American. I'm just sort of wondering if that's what he would have had, what would have Winston Churchill or John Curtin or someone like those, the Allied powers leaders, would have had as their little things when they fought
Flying
against
bowler
the Axis.
Perfect.
That was
you haven't seen any Sergeant Rock comics, because have you ever seen any of the Nazi super weapons in the Sergeant Rock comics? They're just crazy. So obviously that in the same universe, the Allied powers must have. A giant spinning, a battle spinning top. Which
I think I've seen that on what's the damn thing?
Super Dickory.
Bingo. Yes.
Haha. Ninja Jew with cunning British ninja powers.
Of course. Well, we should point out that the stuff which they made fun of with Nazi Germany was funny, but not in a racist way like they did with the Japanese stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, we just digress. Mecha. Of course, the Allied powers would have had their own versions of the
Axis power. We started with the Allies.
Yeah. So yeah, the Allies would have their own versions. Like, nobody wants to talk about Winston Churchill's flying bowler hats, or perhaps his waistcoat with a steam-powered jet. No, it would actually be a jet-propelled steam waistcoat thing. You know, he puts it on, it can fly. Super Roosevelt. No,
of course, in this universe, you would have Hitler having green skin and talking like the Claw. Claw from the cartoon, not the movies, I should point out.
Yeah.
You know what? I reckon someone should actually do something along like these lines. Just create a fake comic or whatever of just this type of stuff.
Challenge set. Any of the bunnies out there want to do this? Go for it.
But I'm just sort of wondering, where would you position, say, Stalin in all this?
He would have.
He definitely would be red in some bloody way.
Well, yes, but he would have the exact same kind of mecha that the Americans had, but it would be about 3 times the size, look really bulky, and would break when you blow on it.
Well, no, it'll be sort of be a mix of what the Germans had, because they did actually trade information somewhat in the war before the war.
True.
Thank you for Poland. Their little deal with that.
Oh, that reminds me of the dogs troops sent to blow up tanks. They were training these dogs to carry explosives to blow up any enemy tanks, and they trained them to run under them, and then they would explode with the explosives strapped to them. And the only problem is they didn't have any Allied tanks to train them on, so they trained them on German tanks. And when they finally unleashed them, the dogs, who had been trained to go under German tanks, went under their own tanks and exploded.
Well, they had rats as bombs, if I can remember. This is actually true for those people who've ever studied World War II history. Is what they did is they had dead rats, and they would basically get a stick of dynamite, shoved it into the back passage of the dead rat, and then throw it over the wall into the German base.
Did they buy the rat a date and a meal before they shoved the stick of dynamite in there, or did they just go for it?
They went for British ingenuity, so they just stuck it in.
Oh, right.
Of course, none of these weapons are as weird as the one the Americans are still apparently developing, which is the gay bomb.
Actually, against our current enemies, that would be viciously effective, and I cannot wait to see that in action.
What, Canada?
No.
The rest of the free world?
No!
China?
Well, them too. Although China probably wouldn't be nearly as affected, because they have this thing about.
Well, they've got a large portion of males in their country.
Sorry, cat's talking to me. I think she wants to be fed again.
Your cat is not the host.
No, the cat's not telling you to feed it. It's telling you to kill us.
Oh yeah, well your cat's gonna have to kick my cat's ass before that happens.
My cat? She could. She would.
Actually, my cat's way too prissy and genteel. He'd look down his nose at whatever fighting was going on. I am too good for this, and walk away.
Oh,
damn it, cat! You're American, not British or French.
You just made me think of that real life comic when they made fun of civilization.
Cat, you're in my face. Anyway, shall we move on?
Okay, let's see.
Oh, I don't feel we should.
Because
we know it's not going to work.
From the Mayhem forums, Twilight Dusk asks, have any of you at any point been considered a nerd or geek?
All my life.
I was going to say, isn't that more of a kind of I don't know, what's the word, duh? No.
Which is sort of unfair, because technically I never was a geek, because I'm not that good at computers. So it's unfair I got labelled with that title, because it's not very fair for people who have no technical engineering skills at all, and they're just like a bit quiet, and nobody really talks to them, and get labelled with the term geek. So upsetting. Anyway, what about you, Homer?
We have secretly replaced Killerfish's microphone with a hamster. Let's see how long it takes him to notice.
I don't want to know which end he's talking into.
Well, absolutely. I'm one of those that embraced nerddom and geekdom, and at an early age, of course, when one has a computer scientist as a father, one really has no choice.
Soon to be father.
I'm sorry?
Soon to be father.
No, I'm talking about my dad.
Ah,
right.
sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yes. For those who don't know, I am going to be a dad, which really plays
Not a mother, a dad.
Yes.
So you can have your shock and horror reaction soon.
plays total havoc with the whole TG thing. But you know what? I don't care. I'm going to have a little girl, and she's going to kick all your asses. So,
What about if it's a boy?
She'll kick mine.
well, it's 80% from the last sonogram. It's 80% sure it's a girl. Of course, that's not a guarantee, but we're pretty sure it's a little girl. But then again, even if it's not, given that it's my kid, that may not matter. Anyways, so
Life choices.
yes.
What do you decide?
Squato, how about
Coming
yourself?
up next on a very special Jerry Springer. Sorry.
Jerry. I'll say, yeah, probably go for nerd or geek if you want. For certain extents, yes. Or sort of had interest in things long before they sort of became popular in other sense, like say for science fictions or things, or gaming or things like that. But in another sense, I would sort of feel it's very hard to actually say if an Australian can be classified as a nerd or a geek, if only because Kevin Rudd, the new Prime Minister of Australia, he classifies himself as a geek, and he was voted the Prime Minister of Australia. What also makes it interesting is considering the fact that means Australia is probably the only country in the world where a man can go into a titty bar, drink half a beer, seeing all the action, and still be elected the Prime Minister of the country.
Well, apart from Mexico, maybe.
No, you have to be part of the ruling elite to be president of Mexico.
Yeah, you
Oh,
do.
right.
Yeah. Even if you're one of the workers, you have to get up into the ruling elite after you've defeated them in an armed rebellion.
Okay.
I shall not attempt to do a Mexican accent because I'm sure it'll come out horrendously stereotyped, and I'll probably get attacked for it.
Well, at least we
Ow.
know that someone.
Ow. Ow.
Well, at least we know one person that would be an expert of the Mexican accent. Homer.
Yes. Yes.
You make
Actually,
you make me
What?
think of Troy's rather amusing attempt at writing a Mexican scene in the war thread a while back. It was just
Oh, you told me about this. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It was. I'm not going to bother rereading the actual post because anybody who does not live in Mexico or on the border won't get it. It won't make any sense to anybody who doesn't know the culture. But reading, I read this and I got like five words in and I started giggling, and like a paragraph in, and I'm just like chuckling like crazy. And by the time I had actually finished the post, I was literally falling out of my chair. It was just so funny, the complete and total lack of understanding of the culture. Nothing against Troy, it's just he doesn't know the culture at all. And
well, I know that I really do remember the fight which came off that because of how badly you offended him when you said that he did something wrong.
Well, let's not badmouth Troy because he does try. He does try really hard and he does some good work. And
yeah, and
I appreciate the work he's done for Keenfans as well.
yeah, he's done a great job on Keenfans, I think.
Yeah.
But,
Did. Keyword did.
Yeah. He's kind of bowed out of a lot of stuff. But it was just so funny, and when I actually took this post and I showed it to other people who live in Southern California and in the San Diego region, showed it to them, and everybody, and it was completely contextless, other than this was supposed to be a nation that was a break-off and predominantly Mexican in culture. And I just said, this is supposed to be something like Mexico, and they were reading it, and they were just dying of laughter. And people who had no
Troy, for the love of God, don't have another fight over this, please.
and there were people who
I don't want to hear it again.
there were people who were complete strangers who were saying, this is nothing like Mexico. Mexico is the Presidente in a bar has like the cheapest beer on the planet. It's run down, it's dilapidated, but there's a mint condition Rolls Royce out front. That's Mexico right there.
For those of
All I
you
know is apparently
taking courses in Mexico, well, that is Mexico.
all I know is apparently the one that gets Mexico the closest is that Man on Fire film.
I haven't actually seen that. It's on my Netflix list though.
Which apparently the biggest thing for that is when Denzel Washington tortures the cop under the pass. And for anyone that's ever seen the film, you know what's just about to happen next.
I'll watch the movie. In any case.
I actually am laughing because of the fact you don't know what. It's
Like-
generally I wouldn't be. It's not such. It's a right film, but yeah.
Meh.
But that is a memorable scene.
Okay, let's. Not that funny.
I just thought I'd interject with him.
See, I got the crowd to laugh. What did you get?
What did he get? He got like...
I have Killerfish
yeah,
pushing buttons. Let's go back to.
Okay. I shouldn't say that joke.
Let's go back to You Will Never Know's questions, because he's actually got a few.
Shall I do one from the main?
Yeah,
thing?
let's hit the main forms.
I think both of them are exactly
Okay.
the same. From
No, they're not the same.
Who is your least favourite character and why?
oh, yeah.
I'm presuming he's talking about the comic.
Yeah, the comic. My least favourite character is Gerard, for he is only in one scene, one panel, back in 2001, and he's very, very quiet, and doesn't say anything.
Apparently, I don't remember him.
He was a French. He disappeared soon afterwards.
Yes, he was killed by a vicious gang of bunnies who hated him, led by me.
Least favorite character.
And we're not offending the French. It just seems to be a bit easy to make fun of them. That's all.
Because they fail at making airports. Anyways.
Buongiorno, you French cheese-eating surrender monkeys.
Hey, making fun of the French is a British pastime.
No, it's
And if you're
not
wondering where I
understand-
picked it up, it's between the American and the Englishman.
anyways. Let's see. My least favorite character. That's actually kind of tough because it's hard
You know
to.
what, I would actually go on a tangent and say that there's probably none of them which I would really define as my least favourite character, because the only way I would really define one that I would say is the least favourite is if I can't understand it or anything like that, and like I hold an apathetic view of it. But really, all of them, I hold a view of them. I can understand what they mean, and if I don't like them, it's because I actually understand what they're getting from or where they're coming from.
Right.
So, to me, I'll
Yes,
say
yes.
don't really hate any of the characters. Or there's not a least favourite character, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you were to really put me up against a wall,
Bang!
Mrs. Gets
Bang, 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 bang!
What's her name? Nanase's mom.
Yeah,
Of course, I think she's written to be.
Miss Kinsim. I don't know if she's actually had her first name put in the comic yet. She may have. I don't recall at the moment. And if anyone does say it, I don't particularly care if you point out if she has had her name said in the comic.
I
sure
would like to point out that I kind of predicted the character, the mannerisms, the way she talks, everything when I wrote my fanfic, like a good 2 years or something before Dan actually introduced Nanase's mom as a character.
You're probably using your psychic powers.
Actually, I'm going to thank you for that, because when you said you predicted what the person would be like, you're not doing it like some people, which is, I made the character and I just did it like, this is the way I did it, and then Dan did it like this. So obviously Dan's reading my fanfic and knowing exactly how I do things.
No, I would not presume.
It's like, no, maybe he's just working, you just sort of worked out what the character might be like, and Dan did exactly the same thing, maybe like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Before you did.
Well, quite honestly,
You followed the clues.
Yeah, quite honestly, Mrs. Kitsune is really a very stereotypical character, and not that that's...
In more than a few ways, yes. Other ways, she's not really stereotypical, but she probably will be sort of defined more as a stereotypical by the masses.
Well, and I have known a few people like the character, and believe me when I say it is totally stereotypical behavior for the homosexual hating pseudo-Christian.
Actually, it's not really. People don't. Dan actually has gone on the record on saying I think he has at least. She isn't homosexual hating. It's just more of a case of that she probably is not exposed to it, or at the very least, she may not have a proper understanding of what, say, homosexuality is. Well, the other thing is that even if she does, she sort of just has the naive view that maybe her child or her children, she may not have a gay child.
Well, it's quite...
It's not hating. Not hating.
All right, well, pending confirmation that that's what Dan Shive has said, I'm going to qualify that and say all the other behaviors will point to the stereotypical gay-bashing pseudo-Christian that is very, very far too prevalent in America, quite honestly. I'm actually quite fortunate to live in San Diego, which is just conservative enough to meet my taste, but just liberal enough that I don't feel stifled here. And we have actually very few of that kind of thing. It's a very small minority on the West Coast, and I would imagine just as well on the East Coast, but there's a huge swath of Middle America there that, unfortunately, that's not terribly uncommon.
Just thinking, you actually confirmed something with me about why you don't go on the watch forums.
What is that?
This is not being made against them, but yes, I actually would say there's some people there that are deeply Christian, but in the way they do things. Like for example, there was someone on the thread came out, or one of the forums came out and said that they're bi, and the actual comments were, "Oh, well, that's good for you, but you are going to hell." And it was a general agreement by a number of the people who were there. Yeah, well, that's what's going to happen because it says in the Bible, and a number of people were just sort of slapping their heads against, or hitting their heads against the wall when they read that.
My question
because of how.
My question is how does that mindset correlate with somebody who likes the Watch and EGS and Misfile and all? Because you run into that on like the Misfile boards. He's like,
yeah,
why
it's
are you
weird.
reading
Yeah.
this? This is very clearly a comic with heavy transgender themes, with obvious protagonists that are either bisexual or homosexual. Why are you here? I mean,
well, two of them, actually, I've got an answer for that because from actually two people. I'm not going to name names, but if you know the people, you have a rough idea of who it is that said it. One has gone on the record as stating that's because they know Anne, and they actually do know Anne in real life. They've met her. They've met her, and they've seen the comic before it actually came out. So that's sort of how they got into it. The other one is, what was it they said? Oh yes, they enjoy the comic, they enjoy what they're reading, they enjoy the experience they've got, the storytelling and things like that, but it's fiction to them, and it's not something which, even if they don't have religious views, it's not impacting on them not enjoying it. And they, as they point out, they have gay friends, it's just that they know their gay friends are going to hell.
Well, what I don't understand is,
of course, these people, I should point out that...
Squato,
I should point out these ones that say this. Sorry, it's just this minor point I should say is that...
it's always just a minor point.
Shut up. If you do want to try and debate the bits in the Bible which they say are the most important enough to
that's
remember...
what I was going to say!
like the stuff, because that section which talks about that also talks about, say, how good slavery is, things like that. They will say, well, it's in the Bible, so.
Well, what I was going to say before I was interrupted by somebody right, was what I don't quite understand is that the whole point of Christianity is that belief in Jesus himself is what allows you to allows him to take your sins away, basically. And I'm not saying that what we're discussing is sin, but the whole point is tolerance as well, isn't it? I'm not sure. I'm confused. It's tired. I'm tired. What time is it? Where am I? Who? What? Who? What? Why?
There's actually a really good book called Ain't Nobody's Business If You Do. I'm going to throw in a plug for this book just because it's horribly underreported. Almost nobody talks about it because liberals hate it and conservatives hate it, and so it's not getting any press. But basically it covers the idea of consensual crimes, and for those who may not be familiar with what that means is you do something, it's okay between everybody who does it, so why is there a crime being committed but it's still being prosecuted as a crime? What's pertinent to this particular discussion is there's an entire chapter on homosexuality as regarded as a crime, and the entire chapter is just a ringing condemnation of the very, very bigoted idea that somehow being a Christian means that you automatically have to hate homosexuals, or even that homosexuals are automatically destined for hell irregardless. And
yeah.
I mean, speaking as somebody who considers themselves a Christian, I got to say that the attitude that just because somebody is something means they're automatically going to go to hell is no better than saying that, well, there's not going to be any blacks in heaven. It's just as bad. And I mean, it's this terrible notion that somehow because somebody finds something objectionable, they can find a bit of scripture that supports that, pull it out of whatever context that it's already in, and say, see, Bible says this, I win. And that's essentially all that argument amounts to.
It don't they use the Bible to validate having guns as well? Because Jesus said something about it. Therefore, guns are good.
I know that people try to justify gun ownership with that, but there's better reasons to justify it than some stretched for religious oriented reasons, which the gun control nuts are not going to pay any attention to anyways because they don't believe the Bible is anything anywhere close to legitimate. So it's a stupid argument anyway. But yeah, people try to justify the dumbest arguments using the Bible, and it's like, not only do people not only does not everybody believe your definition of the Bible, your definition of the Bible is only going to apply to the people who have some idea of what the Bible has to say anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason the United States government has separation of church and state, and I think that's pretty much the way to go, really. They try to,
yeah. Which I'm sort of trying to stay out of a theological debate which is sort of developed at the point, but I will say this: is it the Romney? Is it the Republican one that's still in the race? If he, really don't.
Romney's frozen his campaign. Are you thinking
not
about Huckabee?
That's it, Huckabee. Yeah. I really don't want Huckabee to have any particular power so even vice president or anything like that. If he gets if McCain actually wins, when McCain wins the nomination, and if he was to actually win the presidency, I don't want Huckabee to have a major say in what's happening, because I really do fear for what type of his impact would have on America in particular. I know he probably would have some good views and things like that. It's just, I really don't think someone that believes the Earth is less than several thousand years old is really the best type of person to be leading a superpower like the US.
So, to put it simply, you wouldn't trust him with a rubber duck?
Well, no, it's just no, it's just that no, I'm just saying is that I don't feel that someone like him, because of some of the views he's expressed, would be the best one to be in charge of the country.
Yeah,
And
but what I said makes
by
a better
extension, the
sound.
free world. Maybe Robert Duck, but I'm just saying. That's just my view. That's my view. I know people are going to
Right,
disagree, but yeah,
How are we running for time?
Let me look at my time.
long enough.
Well, we're at an hour 32, so
Not long enough.
Yeah, we've got a good half hour left on our originally planned 2-hour podcast.
Right then, I shall have to pull in an anonymous question. Okay, this is the question. What would be the most useless thing to make out of solid gold? In your opinion?
A solid gold detector.
A boat.
Make a boat. Well, I was thinking making a
Actually, a
solid
boat
gold.
could be made out of gold.
Yeah, but it'd
Yeah.
be absolutely worthless. It would sink.
Hmm.
No, it wouldn't.
I was thinking a solid gold safe.
And it's a pretty weak metal, too. You could probably break into it pretty dang easy, in addition to the thing being worth a lot.
Well, you know, gold is only artificially priced anyway, because people say the government says it's worth a lot, and since when have we ever trusted the government?
Actually, the government, at least in America, does not say it's worth a lot. We went off the gold standard a long time ago. What's wrong with you people?
Well, I don't know. We've got a constitutional monarchy still, even though technically we still don't have a constitution. We're one of the few countries which doesn't have an actual constitution. We've got a series of documents, but no.
Which I find
proper
is funny, considering the
constitution.
fact that if you view the history of what led to the American system of government and the Australian system of government and other types of democracies around the world, England is generally seen as a centerpiece of what led to all this coming to be.
Yeah, if it wasn't for us, you would be still ruled by us. So be grateful. If we hadn't had, like, arrogant bastards, you would still be under our rule.
Technically speaking, Australia is still under English.
Take that. Ha!
I could say something very, very American promoting and all that kind of thing, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that particular point.
No, don't worry. The War of Revolution was what, 250 years ago or so?
Water
Well,
under the bridge.
225 or so. Add some tea.
You destroyed all that beautiful tea. We could have used that to make. We could have used that at 4 o'clock. That's
We could have just
perpetuating the
jumped in.
stereotypes by.
An English stereotype? Nah.
No. Me? Perpetuating stereotypes of my own country? Never. Although technically I'm also a New Zealander and I'm also Dutch, which makes me 1.5 people, technically.
Where's your mini-me?
Oh, I left him on the train, I think. Haven't seen him since we went to that party back in 2006, I think. Yeah. Man, that was a crazy time. A lot of people were, drinking, smoking, taking crystal meth, doing stuff like that. And, Mini-Me was getting into it, didn't really appeal to me at all, so I left and haven't seen him since. Shame. Terrible shame.
I just sort of think, was that party meant to be stuck in the 60s or stuck in the 80s?
You joke, but I think I actually am stuck in the 80s. Mainly because I've used the A-Team music as my ringtone on my mobile phone. And I've got I've got some Transformer toys. No! I am a geek.
That's okay. There was a Transformers movie. You're still in the clear.
Ah, talking of movies, Star Trek movie coming up in December.
Looking good from, from what I've seen so far.
Good. Yeah, seamless link there. Woo-yah. I can move and make comments about movies now. Also, the one that's recently came out recently.
And redundantly.
Background. Yeah, the Jumpers movie. I believe we were talking about it before we started the podcast, or maybe we talked about it during the podcast. I can't remember.
No, it was before.
Oh, and it was you.
Oh yes, but that new one featuring most of the cast of Star Wars. And yeah, I'm seriously considering taking a look at it, mainly to point at that guy who played Anakin Skywalker, and just say, use the Force.
And we actually, if you're going by that, you get to see Samuel L. Effing Jackson lay the smackdown on him. Lay the smackdown on that emo little Anakin.
I think we've passed the point where we can stop pretending to swear and actually just come out and say things now. Because
if I care enough, I'll clean it up in the edit.
Yeah. You
in that case, we're going to make the jobbers.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find a disco track. So every time we mention his name is a waka chicka waka chicka waka chicka. Samuel L. Motherfucking Jackson. Waka chicka waka chicka waka chicka.
Come on, the Book of Ezekiel. Let him quote it.
Yes, but I'm seriously considering taking a look at Jumpers at some point once I've saved up enough money for this trip to Comic-Con this year. Well, I've got to save up for that first, and then I'll go and see it. And then I'll give you a review unless somebody on the forums beats me to it. Ninjas. You know what to do.
Bunny ninjas.
That reminds me of something. Because last year, for those of you who went to the San Diego Comic-Con and saw people on stage, they were supposed to be me and Homer and two other people who were actually dressed in black properly so we wouldn't be seen. Unfortunately, we got put to the front of the stage.
So nobody could see us.
Yes. Apart from me, you saw my hair waggling backwards and forwards when they introduced the judges. That was fun.
Yeah, the masquerade is always a little bit of controlled. No, it's not even controlled. It's just chaos. It's like that literally every year. There is no rhyme or reason or figuring out who's supposed to be doing what with any sort of degree of efficacy. It's just, I'm standing here, I'm doing this job. Oh, okay. Just so I know. Oh, job's changed? Okay, good. Again? All right. Three times in 3 minutes. That's a record. So yeah.
You know what I'm just thinking is, I'm just wondering at what point should we make the theme song to this Madness's "Welcome to Our House of Fun."
Welcome to the House of Fun. Da, 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 da.
Don't think I've actually heard that one.
Oh,
I'll send it to you.
British band, I think.
Yes, they are.
I'm just thinking
I mostly remember that song for the TV show The Young Ones.
I'm just thinking of Queen's "I'm Going Slightly Mad."
I used that in a music video. No, not a music video. Whilst I was doing my media studies course, we were making dream sequences, and I used that piece of music for mine, and it worked so well.
Okay, we have officially passed the 20 minutes left mark. Let's start doing some recap. What are we talking about?
We talked all sorts of rubbish.
Yes.
About we talked about the forum.
Yes. Don't be mean.
And don't be mean. We talked about Dan going off for a little while to clean up his artwork. We talked about the watch and how they'll be at Comic-Con this year.
Yes, and spoke about Comic-Con. Register now or volunteer now. That basically is the gist.
We also talked about the rating system that's being proposed. And
Which is up to people if they want to support it or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to have independent verification that your comic is what you say it is. Yes, my comic is about 3 people who are talking on a podcast whilst eating bananas.
No, not the bananas.
Oh, that's what I wanted to mention at some point. Red versus blue. I wanted to talk red versus blue. Oh well, another time.
Yeah.
Another time.
Where's our little low on time, so...
Hang on a second, guys. Talk among yourselves.
Time is just a state of mind.
Okay, well, continuing the recap, we didn't really discuss any other comics besides that.
I think it's probably a bit too early to have discussed any comics, any other comics, because the best way to do that is sort of probably more along the lines of, say, a book club type thing, which is maybe someone suggests one or we suggest one between each other, and then we all read it together type thing. Well, we've read it in our own time.
I suppose. So then we actually got on to discussion. What prime topic of discussion today was, what did we see going for the podcast? And, it just occurred to me, I never really talked about that. So it's a good thing we're doing the recap.
Yeah.
I remember, wasn't it last Comic-Con, or was it just after last Comic-Con that you brought this up to me, Killerfish?
I think it was just after.
Yeah. Well, while you're still here, or was it after you'd already left?
I think it was after I'd left. Yeah, it was after I left because I told you online.
Right. Yeah, I think I remember now. Yeah. It was in an email, and then you dropped off the face of the planet. In any case,
as I am wont to do. I like being uncontactable.
Well,
because I have evil plans brewing. Evil plans.
Yes, Darth.
I'd kind of Anyways,
you're gonna have to splice that music in every time.
I'd kind of like to see this podcast become kind of like what you were saying, Killerfish, sort of an extension of the forums, but sort of more of an opportunity to address the serious stuff with I don't know, it's sort of an authoritative voice, bringing in other people. I really like this idea where people have these questions to ask of us, and we sit down and we talk about, okay, what does this mean? How are we going to do that? So, anyways.
And then we go off on complete tangents.
Total and complete tangents, talking about religion, politics.
Mutant dinosaurs who somehow come into the present via a future time-traveling device.
Now, wait a minute. We haven't...
No, that only happens if they are philosophical. They talk about philosophy.
Ah, right, of course.
We haven't talked about sex yet.
Oh.
We sort of touched on it anyway.
Well, yeah, we brushed against it gently, and there we go. That covers sex for the day.
Or did we just do the foreplay bit?
Isn't that what this entire podcast was?
Foreplay? I'm not feeling any more randy in particular after this podcast.
Please note, everyone, we haven't given him enough drinks yet.
I don't drink.
Yeah, that's why we haven't given him enough drinks.
Okay, so listener Q&A. We answered a bunch of questions, some of them silly, some of them serious. If we did not get to your questions and you really want them asked on the air, please repost them. Killerfish, I think you and I should turn the threads that we started into permanent question threads for the podcast. What do you think?
That sounds like a plan to me.
Okay.
But then again, so does stomping up and down on little defenseless hamsters, so I suppose I'm not really a good judge of plans.
You've been listening to Weird Al, haven't you?
No.
Okay.
Seriously, I haven't. I just thought stomping up and down the hamster's a good idea.
Maybe he's heard the alternative side to the hamster dance song.
Yes. Any case.
That's a flashback for people.
Yes. On the subject of Q&As, this doesn't have to be just silly questions. It doesn't have to be just about the hosts. It can be, you can direct computer questions at me and I'll answer them on the air. You can direct art questions to Killerfish. You can direct transgendered questions our way. You can direct general comic hobbyist stuff our way. Squato, what the hell do you do anyways?
He tells me to write stuff.
Aha.
I do what I do because I am what I am.
You can direct egotistical bastard questions at Squato. I mean, all of us. Consider this an open forum for you to present your questions about pretty much anything that you think we'd be able to address to us. Seriously, I mean, if you have any questions that you might be uncomfortable bringing up, having attached to your name, private message or email or even instant message, any one of the three of us.
Probably not me.
Not
because I'm sort of not on the forums. I'm sort of having a break from the forums.
Well, okay.
Well, I'm sort of doing things on it, but not on posting on the forums type thing. So, yeah.
Well, you can still read your private messages.
I sort of keep off from that because if I go on there just sort of to read that, I probably would end up making a post somewhere along the lines. And yeah, I prefer to have the break a bit longer.
All right, whatever.
Which reminds me, if any bunnies want to advertise on our podcast, we're willing to take donations from them. No, if anybody needs like somebody, if anybody who's a writer needs an artist or something like that, would that be an idea to have in the future?
It's an interesting idea.
Connecting people.
Well, on the note,
BunnyCast.
On the note of money and whatnot, we are looking for sponsors. So if anybody knows of a company that is open to doing some sponsoring of a podcast, or even if you just like a particular product and you want us to approach them, by all means, let us know. So it looks like we're down to the end of the show.
I make no comment in that regard.
Wait.
The sponsorship thing, I make no comment in that regard.
Go ahead.
Right. Okay, I suppose we should talk about the totally excellent people at Shasterix.com.
Ah, yes. You know them best.
They control your life.
Yes, they control my life. I have no life whatsoever, besides that of which devoting to making comics.
And speaking of comics, Killerfish, what direction are you going to take your comic in?
I'm gonna, start thinking of making some.
It will happen,
from there.
and things will result.
Possibly, who knows. But yeah, talking of Shasterix.com, Jim and Ash have been totally excellent about setting up a site for us to host this cast off. So, would appreciate it if people would use their generous nature to host a few of their comics. I'm sure they won't mind. I'll make them not mind. Anyway, take a look at Team Nexus if you're there, and read my comic. I order you to do so.
Okay, Squato, what projects do you have on the burner these days?
Well, I did make the comment before about how they got that the video, which I'm sort of working on. A few other things which are in various points of me working on them, either to the stage where I've got a large amount of details worked out, to I have 2 words which say idea this. But there's one that sort of is more, it looks to have been officially talked about, with that, I'm going to put it, Anki, or whatever you want to pronounce his name,
Ankarion.
Go for that one.
Ankarion.
Yeah. We were sort of, one time we were chatting about something in which that led to a webcomic idea, which we're now at the stage of getting ready to launch.
It's in development.
maybe. Yes, there's still things being worked out about it, but you'll probably
You
hear
know where
more
you can
about
host that? You know where you can host that?
it. We're still working it out.
Jastrix.com.
I'll make that comic there, but I'm still say it's still being worked out.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay.
But yeah, that's probably my project-wise.
All
There's
right.
other things, but nothing to the stage you can talk about.
Well, as for myself, I have several different projects going on all at the same time. I have the Chores project, which can easily be accessed at web.mac.com/homernet, and I am working on getting an actual URL for that. And there's the Yin Yang project, which anybody who is interested, I'll go ahead and send them a link to that. I'm also trying to get started a blog for reviewing older video games. You can go to damehelennet.spaces.live.com for that. What else do I have going? Well, right now that's just about it. So, time to put in the plug for Elgunish Shive, guys. What do you have to say?
Ooh. Elgunish Shive is a strange webcomic which features various different transformations using guns and magic. It has squirrels too. We all had cake, and then we went on a parade, and I was the master of the parade, and everybody liked me.
Yes, Marie
The end.
Antoinette.
What? No, that's not Marie Antoinette. That's Caboose.
He talked about cake. That's why I called him Marie Antoinette then.
Uh-huh.
I think Church is angry at me. Maybe if I shoot that person with a gun, he will make me happy, and Church will like me again. Maybe.
Your Caboose impression is not the greatest, but that's okay.
I prefer, if you ask me, one of the best moments from that series still has to be the surrendering moment.
I just like everyone to know that I'm a little girl, and I like to put ribbons in my hair, and I like to kiss all the boys.
Best surrender ever!
Which has nothing to do with Elgunish Shive whatsoever. And remember, there's only ever been one goon in Elgunish Shive once, and that qualifies.
Indeed, indeed.
Even though we do know where the joke of that name originated from.
Yes, Simpsons episode. It was.
It's actually the episode that came from is actually generally defined as one of the best Simpsons episodes ever. Last Springfield from is it? Oh, I'm just gonna grab the DVD. Just talk for a few seconds. I'll get it.
You have a DVD. You have to actually check that too, unless apart from using your encyclopedic knowledge of everything in the universe.
There's over There's over 400 episodes of The Simpsons. If anyone can remember every single detail of The Simpsons, you are a freak.
No, you're the freak. Nah.
It's Last Exit to Springfield. That was the strike episode.
Oh,
Right.
yes, the one where Grandpa talked about, carried an onion on your belt, which was the style at the time.
What else was there? Oh, yes, does everyone agree? Yes! Anyone say nay? Me.
No. Me. Who keeps saying that? He does.
It was him. It was him. Get him, Boris. Did you find the toilet alright? Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this BunnyCast. I have been Dame Helennet the Leatherclad.
I have been the Honourable Right Reverend Sir Lord Killerfish. I think.
And this is Squato, who just sort of sits in the corner until we push his buttons.
Smeagol wants precious.
Dance, monkey boy, dance!
He's like a programmable robot, really. I think we should spike his personality by 3 points of levity and put down the ego just a touch.
Now, see, what we need to do is turn off all of his senses of dangers, and then turn up the adrenaline, and then let him play in traffic.
Or we could just do the
Actually,
make him Steve Irwin type.
I live on the bloody highway. It's right at the front.
So do I.
In fact, I live on one of the most dangerous roads in the country.
All right, well, that wraps up this particular podcast. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Later. See you all.
The BunnyCast is produced by the Order of the Bunny and is not affiliated with Elguna Shive or its creator, Dan Shive. Any comments made do not necessarily reflect the opinions or beliefs of anyone but the speaker. Use of Because of Your Grace and Crazy World is done without permission due to the inability to contact the creator. If you are the creator and would like to contact us about the use of your music, please email homernet@mac.com.
It's all messed up in my head. I got you, I don't care.